It's me, it's Issa, and welcome to my new series. And it's entitled Change. How ready are you for change in your grief journey? How well do you handle change? Because it's here. And one would think the transitioning of a loved one was enough. And at this point in my grief journey, I have determined that the transitioning or the death of my loved one was actually the catalyst for this change. So I decided to break this down into 3 series. And I did some soul searching. I even revisited my journal, past entries, and some current ones. And when I looked through my journal and did some self-assessments through my book, just going back and looking at the pages that I've done, I've noticed a change in myself, a change in how I show up, a change in how I think, how I speak. And I'm not talking about change like mild changes. I am talking about bona fide changes till it reflects a whole nother self. That's why I entitled 2 of my books Rediscovery and the Discovery of Self, your new self, because you do not come through this grief journey unchanged. You do not. So I have some notes here. So I'm just going to address one change, and I've narrowed it down to 3 impactful changes that I could come up with, which in turn triggered other changes, okay? And my first one I have down is when, and all of this, to be clear, is happened after the transitioning, after the death of my spouse. I narrowed it down, and my first change that I noticed that triggered other changes was taking on the responsibilities of my spouse. As a mother, a wife, and so many other roles that I had prior to my husband's transitioning, which I enjoy, you know. And then once my husband passed away, I had to become the handy woman around the house. I had to remember, and a lot of times, a lot of his responsibilities I enjoyed but didn't know existed until something mechanical happened, because I did not fulfill that responsibility. For example, the furnace. I didn't change the filter for a couple of years. So when the heater didn't come on one cold night, I was like, what is going on? And of course, I called out a service company, and he was like, he showed me the filter, because I was standing right there beside him. I was like, I was not aware I was supposed to do that. Right? So that moment, among many others, um, responsibilities that my husband did on his own, that he didn't find it necessary to share with me, but made sure that I and our family, our household, enjoyed the benefits of it. Okay. And I recall I was so upset with myself, and I should not have been. And I looked at the journal entry. I mean, I literally beat myself up emotionally. When I say emotionally, like through writing, because remember now, I always journal. And I was reading those pages and looking through where I am now. I was like, oh my goodness. Like, I wish I could go back and tell myself at that time, like, calm down, it's okay. But thank goodness, it didn't destroy the entire furnace. You were able to afford the change. It wasn't overly, expensive. Calm down. But in those entries, I was still able to understand. So if you at that point now in your grief journey, I understand, because it creates this sense of, I failed at this responsibility. I should have known this. No, you were not. Just like I just said, I was not supposed to have known this, because if I did, my husband probably would have felt some type of way, like, if I was changed out the field, it would have insulted my husband in his living. You follow me? So no, you did not shortchange yourself. And I understand when sometimes we get into these, we feel like we failed at something, right? Something that we feel like it's the minutia, the mundane and things like that of life. And those were kind of like responsibilities of your loved one prior to their transitioning. It can cause you to second guess yourself. So I understand that. And it's okay. All right. But this video is to let you know that I understand that. And to also let you know the change is here. So you can go ahead and start preparing a list of things. Just go around the house or sit back and just say, how do certain things work? Or ask a family member, a trusted family member, can you go through and just do a health check of the home? Something like that. I didn't know anything about a health check of a home. That is just something I just created. But it makes sense for those of us on a grief journey. So yeah, taking on the responsibilities of my spouse was one of the most impactful changes in my life. Let's use the example again about calling out a service provider for the furnace. Let's see. And having conversations with contractors that normally I would not have. So having these conversations, and typically they're male, and those were not that I'm afraid to have a conversation, professional or personal conversation with my male counterparts. That's definitely not it. Not in the industry that I'm in professionally. And but because I was grieving and I felt like I had failed at that particular responsibility, I was not trusting, very trusting of the technician. So I literally researched, and when before I signed anything, I had him come back out, and I really drilled him about, okay, what is this, what is that, so that I won't miss the mark the next time. How did I get here to this point? And luckily, he was nice enough to respond, you know. So now having these conversations with um, individuals, service companies, um, about things that pertains to the house, created a more direct way of addressing issues, and it carried over into my professional life as well. Um, for, uh, for instance, uh, I would say my tone changed as well. And then also the role of nurturer and protector. And I'm not gender biased by no means. But I'm going to tell you, I enjoy every moment of living in my femininity that my husband created me to live in. I did. Like I said, I never washed my car, put gas in it, did the lawn work, anything mechanical at the house. I didn't have to deal with my car, none of that. I mean, that just was my husband. He enjoyed doing it, and I enjoyed the benefits of it. So, becoming, I guess, shifting more into a masculine energy, I should say. Because believe me, I was a mother and I was very aware and protective of my children. Okay. So don't think that I was so feminine to the point like, oh, I run around clutching my pearls. No. I enjoyed the environment of being a nurturer to the extent that I wanted to be in. You follow me? And my husband provided a space for me to do that. And I appreciate that. So now that I spent so many years, just in my zone and I had created my own balance, but now I'm doing more situations that would be considered more masculine. So I had to learn how to be okay in those spaces and stand firm and be unapologetic about it. So although a contractor show up and I've had this happen, and I would just be like, okay, now 50%, I was like, where do they do that at? I would never give you 50% of a deposit. So if you can't do this job with zero money, but you're definitely not getting 50%, that's not happening. Well, that's not my issue. So goodbye. And I mean, honestly, at this point, you're a professional. And I'm looking for professionalism. My temperament is no longer as long as it used to be, you know. So show up to do business because I'm looking for you to show up to give me your best business. Okay. And like I said, that carried over into my professional life in good ways. And as I look back, and I look at myself most recently and how I have shifted into more leadership roles. Not that I kind of swayed from them. It was just, I don't know. So I was like, okay, there's a shift happening, right? And and it wasn't me, I'm gonna be honest, it was nobody but my spirit was like, I need you to pinpoint this and talk about this. And I was like, it's change. And I was like, let's pinpoint, because there's so much that has changed. Let's pinpoint some of the most impactful changes that triggered other changes in your life and share them with other people. And that's on this grief journey. And this is not just for a widow. This is also for my widowers. It's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I had to literally come out myself and be okay with talking with my girls about their weight, for example, and not sugarcoat it, but not be so detached where I don't understand where they're coming from, and be upfront with them about, yes, I may be male, but I love you. And I know there's an element of being a woman, a lady, that I can't give you. But I'm going to give you everything I do have outside of that. And in the process, I'll be searching for that right element for you that can provide that for you. So when you shifting from my widowers, when you shift into a more feminine energy, does not determine your masculinity at all. Actually, it may make you more attractive, you know. So yeah, that's one of the changes that I wanted to address. And for me, my number one change was taking on the responsibilities of my spouse, which triggered changes in other areas of my life. So understand, I get where you are. And in the beginning, you're going to second guess yourself. You're going to miss the mark sometimes, if not a lot of times. And in those moments, just call upon a trusted family member, friend, and professional counseling. Remember, my videos is not to supplement or take the place of healthy healing, intentional healing, and professional help. Be it counseling, group counseling, individual, or all. You decide. And when things become too overwhelming, I always say you pick up the phone and you call your local emergency services. And they will get you to where you need to be. Because this journey is exactly what it is. It's a journey. There's not an appeal to take it all away. But you get through it. And my channel is here. I am here to encourage you and to let you know you're going to get through it wherever you are, and to celebrate you where you are. You follow me? Because there are some instances when you're in or having a moment that you feel like you're not going to see through it. You will. Remember, you do not have to go through this alone. And when you get through it and you look back at it 2 days later, a couple hours later, or a day 24 hours later, you celebrate that. Because in that moment, you didn't see beyond it. And when you get further into your healing journey, you look back and you celebrate it. Do you hear me? That's an accomplishment. And celebrate who you are right now. Because death It's not this evil or hateful event. It's a beautiful and natural promise and a cheerleader for each and every one of us to celebrate right now. Okay? Celebrate now. I know it sounds cliche, but it's the truth. All right? Celebrate your accomplishments. Celebrate that you got through last night. Celebrate that you got through 2 weeks ago. Celebrate getting through 12 years. You know? Be encouraged, stay encouraged. And guess what? I love each and every one of you. And no, I can't say it enough. You get through it. If you gotta cry your way through it, that's fine. Because it doesn't determine who you are. You got this. All right. See you guys later on the next video.